All right, well, let me jump over here to the Rightside Way opening monologue. And I'll just tell you, in my opinion, we're watching something happen right now that is just really kind of an unexpected byproduct of the hope that the 2024 election has brought. I mean, I don't put my hope in people, but I do know that God allows circumstances. Those circumstances inspire hope. And I think that's where we are right now. So let me ask you this. Have you seen it? I don't know what you call it. I call it the Trump happy dance. Last week, when I spoke to a large group of Republicans in Huntsville, the first thing I did at the microphone was just a brief Trump happy dance just to set the tone. But it's viral now. I mean, you see it happening all over. And what's funny is that athletes everywhere are doing the Trump happy dance. It's hilarious. I mean, we've got college and pro football players, MMA fighters, LPGA golfers, professional soccer players, all doing the Trump happy dance when they score, they win, or just celebrating a good moment with their teammates. Right there on the field of play, Trump happy dance. Yeah, we're a far cry from the days of purple-haired activist Megan Rapinoe bullying the members of the women's national soccer team to kneel down at the national anthem. Colin Kaepernick telling the world that he really is a good quarterback and, oh, by the way, he doesn't like America and can't stand the fact that he makes millions of dollars in America and wants to kneel down at the flag. You got to know right now that with the Trump happy dance being everywhere, I mean, it's viral, the left is having a complete come apart over this. They can't get rid of it. They have not only been rejected at the polls, but now the world is using a visual reminder of the man they hated and lost to as a symbol of celebration. It's like joy is breaking out. Just be honest with you, it's like joy is breaking out, and I, for one, am loving it. But let's face it, I don't have any illusions there's always going to be complete agreement on the issues. I know there's not. The left and the right don't see eye to eye, and that's just a fact of life. But I also know that we as conservatives have to be willing to lead. There's an old saying that says, if everyone always agrees, then no one's leading. Similar to the one that I remember Margaret Thatcher making when she was Prime Minister of England. She once said, true consensus is the absence of leadership. And she was right. She nailed it. We won't always agree, but we also won't bow down. And that's exactly what progressives want. They want us to not only get on board with their rhetoric, but if we don't agree with it, they want to force us to try and bow down, to kowtow, to make ourselves subservient, to somehow be apologetic for what, actually? For being different? For behaving differently? For daring to think differently than they do? Maybe for thinking conservatively? I mean, literally, the left so often uses subservience as the goal. They demand it. And yet the truth is they'll never be satisfied with having you on your knees. Never. And speaking of which, do you remember in the not-so-distant past when professional athletes were all kneeling at the national anthem? I found it disgraceful, as did most of America. But in a rush to be faddish and to virtue signal they were woke enough, athletes everywhere began to follow NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick by kneeling when the national anthem was played at sporting events. The trend became, unfortunately, viral as overpaid athletes knelt, and then complained when not enough of their own team joined them in kneeling. But there were some who did not. I don't know if you remember a giant of a man named Alejandro Villanueva. Alejandro Villanueva, 6'9", 320 pounds, Villanueva, he played on the offensive line for West Point. After he graduated from the military academy, he went on to serve 2 tours in Afghanistan as an Army Ranger. He earned a Bronze Star for valor for saving wounded soldiers under fire while serving with the 75th Ranger Regiment. After his military commitment was over, Villanueva was picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So came the time in 2017 when the sports world believed that kneeling at the anthem was a strong stand. Yeah, kneeling is a stand. How about that? Just before a game against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in September of 2017, the entire Steelers team decided to stay in the tunnel and not come out for the national anthem. Only one player came out of the tunnel for the anthem, Alejandro Villanueva. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it caused all kinds of stir. I mean, who are we talking about here? He graduated from West Point. He's a combat veteran, decorated for valor. He wore the flag on his sleeve for years. And now it causes a stir because he comes out of the tunnel for the national anthem. Well, it did so to the point that he actually apologized. And I hated that he did that, but he didn't apologize for standing for the flag. He apologized because he said he didn't mean to embarrass his team as, standing out there and letting them be seen as standing inside the tunnel. But he also said that just before the anthem had played, he had actually told Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger that he needed to step outside to see the anthem played. Look, I think it was built into him. I think he did what he did just because of love of country and service and honor. They were built into him. It was part of who he was. And you know what's funny? As a result of Villanueva doing that, his jersey became the top-selling jersey on the NFL's official store within 24 hours. He didn't know it, but he was leading is what he was doing, just by standing. A few years ago, too, I read a book that was very impactful. It's a true story about a group of people who decided that kneeling was not an option. When society told them they had to bow down, when they had to be subservient, there was a group of men in World War II who said no. The book was titled Defiance. There was a movie by the same name that was made in 2008. It starred Daniel Craig. Great movie. It told the story, the true story, of the Bielski brothers. 4 Jewish brothers in 1941 who had their parents murdered by Nazis. Society capitulated to the Nazi dogma, demanding that Jews kneel down in subservience, but the Bielskis, they were not having any of it. They escaped to a thick, deep forest where the Nazis did not like to go, and there they began taking in more and more Jewish survivors. And the Bielskis formed what became known as the Bielski partisans. They fought back. They became such a thorn in the side of the Nazis that they became special targets. But they fought and they dodged capture and they rescued other Jews and they fought some more because they knew that if they knelt before the mob that it would never be enough. There was no good outcome to capitulation. There was no future for those who were willing to give up and give in, because kneeling, y'all, is never enough for the mob. In the book Defiance, it goes on to talk about the hardships they faced as they continued to live in the wilderness and to forage and hunt for supplies and fight for their right to live. There were numerous battles and attempted assaults on their forest hideaway, sometimes resulting in having to move everyone and everything to new locations. But the Bielski partisans, they disabled German trains, they blew up rail beds, they destroyed bridges, they facilitated the escape of Jews from the ghettos where the Nazis fenced them in. In the end, the Bielskis and their partisans spent almost 4 years fighting to avoid kneeling. In the forest, they built themselves a hospital, a nursery, a school, and they rescued over 1,200 Jews. 3 of the brothers survived the war and later immigrated to the United States. They formed a trucking company in New York City. They never sought recognition for what they did, but it is estimated now that the descendants of the people they saved number in the tens of thousands. It's amazing what can happen when good people choose not to kneel to the mob. So here's the thing. You don't have to kneel. Kneeling's a choice. Subservience is a mindset. And yeah, the left will be mad. Just know that up front. Be aware. If you don't kneel, they're going to be mad. Just accept it. The mob does not like it when kneeling is resisted. If you don't use their pronouns or call them by their new names or rally with them against alleged grievances with their perceptions of American society, they're going to react. They may try to dox your business or call you names or be mean to you on social media because they are so tolerant. But more than likely what will happen is they'll just complain that you triggered their overly sensitive sensibilities, and they'll shriek into their TikTok videos that cruelty exists in the form of privileged people like you and I who refuse to join their enlightened crusade. Well, just tell them to pound sand and remind them what that great philosopher of freedom and liberty said, that sage of wisdom known as Mark Twain. Twain said this, he said, "Let men label you as they may. If you alone of all the nations decide one way, and that way may be the right way of your convictions, you have done your duty by yourself and by your country. Hold your head up high, for you have nothing to be ashamed of." So I'm just saying, my friends, don't you bend that knee. You go ahead and break out your Trump happy dance. You celebrate the moments and drive the liberals crazy. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way.